Virtua Boy. A Game Boy/Game Boy Color/Game Boy Advance emulator that renders games as 3D voxels in Virtual Boy aesthetic, with WebXR VR support and community-driven voxel sculpting. Playing modes. Virtua Boy offers 2 ways to play. 5-minute demo mode, ROM files. Try Virtua Boy without any hardware. Load any GB/GBC/GBA ROM file for a 5-minute demo. Click Load ROM 5 minutes demo. Select your ROM file .gb, .gbc, or GBA. Play in red scale, Virtual Boy aesthetic for 4 minutes. Last minute unlocks full color as a preview. Demo expires after 5 minutes. The demo timer is tamper-resistant, no cheat engine tricks. Full experience, physical cartridge. For unlimited play with full color, use a physical cartridge. Purchase a GBX cart RW from gbxcart.com. Connect via USB to your computer. Insert your cartridge, GB, GBC, or GBA. Click Connect GBX cart and grant Web USB permission. Click Read cartridge to load your game. Press V to enter voxel mode. Benefits of cartridge mode. Unlimited play time. Full original colors. Play your own physical collection. Support game preservation. The homebrew demo, Tobu Tobu Girl, loads automatically to demonstrate the voxel rendering. Table of contents. Physical cartridge only. Features. Custom graphics tutorial. Painting voxels. Creating custom tiles. 3D mesh replacement. Metatile system. Workflow examples. Controls. Voxel system. Community features. VR mode. GBA support. Import, export. Technical details. Features. Supported platforms. Game Boy DMG. Original monochrome games. Game Boy Color GBC. Full color support. Game Boy Advance GBA. ARM7 CPU. Pop-up storybook layer rendering. Rendering modes. Hashtag 2D mode classic. Traditional frame buffer rendering. Virtual Boy 4-color red palette. Hashtag 3D voxel mode. Press V. Each pixel becomes a column of voxels. Depth determined by brightness. Bright equals forward, dark equals back. Instanced mesh rendering 100,000 plus voxels. Hashtag mobile layer renderer on mobile devices. Virtua Boy automatically uses 32 stacked transparent planes instead of individual voxels for better performance. Hashtag GBA pop-up storybook mode. GBA games render each layer, BG0, BG3 plus sprites, as separate 3D planes stacked at different depths, creating a pop-up book effect. Audio. GB/GBC. For channel PSG, Square X2, Wave, Noise. GBA. For PSG channels plus 2 direct sound channels, DMA-fed PCM. VR support. WebXR compatible, Quest, Vive, Index, etc. Stereoscopic 3D rendering. VR controller input and voxel editing. Custom graphics tutorial. Virtua Boy lets you customize how every tile in your game renders. You can paint colors, sculpt voxels, or replace entire tiles with custom 3D models. Painting voxels. The quickest way to customize your game's look is with paint mode. Hashtag enabling paint mode. Press V to enter voxel mode. Click the Paint Mode button in the UI or it shows Paint Mode, OFF. The button will change to Paint Mode, on. Hashtag basic painting. Action. Effect. Click on a tile. Paint the entire tile with your selected color. Double-click. Sample the tile's brightness and open the color picker. Right-click. Toggle a voxel on-off at that position. Control plus click. Add a single voxel at the clicked position. Hashtag how color painting works. When you paint a tile, your color is modulated by the original brightness. Dark voxels get a darker shade of your color. Bright voxels get a brighter shade. This preserves the tile's shading while changing the hue. Hashtag, 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 hashtag example. Painting grass green. Enable paint mode. Double-click on a grass tile to sample it. In the color picker, choose a green color. Hashtag 00AA00. Click on grass tiles to paint them green. The voxels will show varying shades of green based on original brightness. Hashtag, 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 hashtag special colors. Pure green, 0, 255, 0. Voxels render with a 3D grass blade shader. This is perfect for grass, bushes, and foliage. Creating custom tiles. For more control than painting, you can sculpt individual voxels or import custom voxel models. Hashtag, 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 hashtag sculpting voxels. Press V for voxel mode. Press E to enable edit mode. Click a tile to select it in VR or with keyboard. Add voxels with trigger, VR, or paint mode plus control plus click. Remove voxels with grip, VR, or paint mode plus right click. 5. Control plus Z to undo. Hashtag, 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 hashtag importing Magica Voxel files. Magica Voxel is a free voxel editor perfect for creating custom tiles. Creating a custom tile in Magica Voxel. Open Magica Voxel. Set canvas size to 8 by 32 by 8 with X height, X depth. X equals tile width, 8 pixels. Y equals depth, 32 voxel layers. Z equals tile height, 8 pixels. 3. Sculpt your design. Save as .vox file. Importing into VirtuBoy. Press V for voxel mode. Click the tile you want to replace. Press I to import. Select your .vox file. The tile is now replaced. Coordinate mapping. Magica Voxel VirtuBoy Y height, Z depth, Z depth, Y screen Y X width X screen X. Hashtag, 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 hashtag creating tiles for specific objects. Example, custom tree tile. In game, find a tree. Press V for voxel mode. Click on the tree tile. Note the tile hash shown, e.g. tile A3F2B1C0. Create your 3D tree in Magica Voxel, 8 by 32 by 8. Import with iKey. Every instance of that tile now uses your custom tree. 3D mesh replacement. For complex models, you can replace tiles with full 3D meshes, OBJ or FBX, instead of voxels. Hashtag, 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 hashtag when to use mesh replacement. Complex geometry that doesn't voxelize well. Textured models where you want to preserve UV mapping. High detail objects like characters or vehicles. Animated meshes coming soon. Hashtag, 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 hashtag importing OBJ files. Preparing your model. Create your model in Blender, Maya, etc. Scale. 1 unit equals 1 pixel. 8 by 8 tile is equal to 8 times 8 units. Origin, center bottom of the model. Export as OBJ with materials, MTL file. If textured, include the texture images. Importing into VirtuBoy. Select the tiles you want to replace. Press Ctrl plus Shift plus I to import as mesh. Select your .obj file and MTL plus textures if applicable. The model replaces the tile with textures. My model/modeled obj hashtag geometry modeled MTL hashtag materials texture PNG hashtag texture image. Select all 3 files when importing. Hashtag, 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 hashtag importing FBX files. FBX files work the same way, but can include embedded textures. Select tiles. Press Ctrl plus Shift plus I. Select your .fbx file. Textures embedded in FBX are automatically extracted. Hashtag, 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 hashtag voxelized versus non-voxelized import. Voxelized, default with iKey. Model is converted to voxels. Matches the Virtual Boy aesthetic. Works with paint mode and community sync. Non-voxelized mesh with MKey. Preserves original geometry. Keeps textures and materials. Better for high detail models. Renders as native 3.js mesh. Meta-tile system. Sometimes game objects span multiple tiles. A tree might be 2 by 3 tiles. The meta-tile system lets you treat multiple tiles as a single 3D object. Hashtag, 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 creating a meta-tile. Step 1. Select multiple tiles. Press V for voxel mode. Shift plus click on the first tile. Shift plus click on adjacent tiles to add them to selection. Selected tiles highlight in yellow. Step 2. Group into meta-tile. Press G to group the selection. Virtue Boy remembers this tile pattern. Step 3. Import custom model. Press I to import a voxelized vox model, or press M to import a non-voxelized obj/FBX mesh. Now, every instance of that tile pattern in the game uses your custom model. Hashtag, 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 hashtag example. Custom character sprite. Game characters are often 2 by 2 or 2 by 3 tile meta sprites. Head tiles, body tiles, feet tiles. Creating a custom character. In-game, find your character sprite. Shift plus click all tiles that make up the character. Press G to group. Create a 16 by 48 by 16 model in Magica Voxel for 2 by 3 tiles. Press I to import. Your character now has a custom 3D model. Hashtag, 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 hashtag the cloud/bush problem. Classic example. Mario's clouds and bushes use identical tiles with different palettes. Solution. Shift plus click the bush tiles, press G. Press I. Import bush box. Shift plus click the cloud tiles, same graphics, different position. Press G. Creates a separate meta-tile. Press I. Import cloud.box. Now bushes render as bushes and clouds render as clouds. Hashtag, 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 hashtag meta-tile detection. Virtue Boy detects meta-tile patterns across the full 32 by 32 VRAM tile map. Pattern matching works at any screen position. Handles patterns that wrap around tile map edges. Partial visibility at screen edges renders correctly. Workflow examples. Hashtag, 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 hashtag example 1. Making a forest scene. Goal. Transform a generic forest level into a lush 3D environment. Load your game via GBX card. Navigate to a forest area. Press V for voxel mode. Paint the basics. Enable paint mode. Double-click grass, pick green, hashtag 00FF00 for grass shader. Click all grass tiles. Double-click tree trunks, pick brown. Double-click leaves, pick dark green. Create custom trees. Shift plus click tiles that form a tree. Press G to group. Create a 3D tree in Magica Voxel. Press I to import. Add details. Click flowers, paint with pink/yellow. Create custom rock meta-tiles. Import custom bush models. Hashtag, 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 hashtag example 2. Character customization. Goal. Give the player character a custom 3D model. Find your character in the game. Press V for voxel mode. Shift plus click all tiles of the character sprite. Press G to create meta-tile. Option A. Voxel model. Create character in Magica Voxel. Match the meta-tile size, e.g. 16 by 32 for 2 by 2 tiles. Press I to import. Option B. 3D mesh. Model character in Blender. Export as OBJ with textures. Press M to import as mesh. Hashtag, 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 hashtag example 3. UI elements. Goal. Customize the game's UI, hearts, coins, etc. Find a UI element, like a heart icon. Click to select the tile. Create a 3D heart in Magica Voxel, 8 by 32 by 8. Press I to import. All hearts in the game now use your model. Hashtag, 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 hashtag example 4. Animated tiles. Water, fire. Tip. Games often use multiple tiles for animation frames. Identify all animation frames, e.g., for water tiles. Create custom models for each frame. Import to each tile separately. The game's animation now uses your 3D models. Controls. Game controls.
Key action.
Arrow keys. D-pad.
Z.
A button.
X.
B button. Enter.
Start. Shift.
Select. Application controls.
Key action. V.
Toggle to D/voxel mode.
E.
Toggle edit mode.
F.
Toggle first person mode. Control+C. Undo. Voxel editing.
Key action. I.
Import Vox to selection voxelized.
M.
Import obj/FBX as mesh non-voxelized.
O.
Export selection to Fox. Control+Shift+E. Export entire scene to Fox. Control+Shift+O. Export scene to .obj. Paint mode. Action effect. Click. Paint tile. Control+click. Add voxel. Right-click. Toggle voxel. Double-click. Sample color. Metatile editing.
Key action.
Shift+click. Add remove tile from selection.
G.
Group selection into metatile. Escape. Clear selection. VR controllers. Input action. Thumbstick. D-pad. Trigger. A button/add voxel.
Grip.
B button/remove voxel. A button.
Start.
B button. Select. Voxel system. Tile volumes. Each 8x8 pixel tile becomes an 8x8x32 voxel volume. Width. 8 voxels tile width. Height. 8 voxels tile height. Depth. 32 voxels 3D extrusion. Depth mapping. Brightness determines depth. Brightness, depth, very dark front, closest to camera, dark middle front, medium middle back, bright back, furthest. Automatic structure detection. Virtuboy automatically detects buildings and cliffs in top-down games and extrudes them into proper 3D. Buildings. Detects roof tiles, bright, horizontal patterns, with wall tiles below, darker. Roofs render as horizontal surfaces at the top. Walls extrude vertically downward. Cliffs. Detects cliff edges, sharp brightness transitions. Cliff tops render as elevated horizontal surfaces. Cliff faces render as vertical drops. 2D tile input. 3D extruded output. Roof. Horizontal roof. Wall. Wall. Vertical wall. Color storage. Virtual Boy palette. 4 shades of red default. Custom colors. RGB 565 format 16-bit. Per voxel coloring. Mix palette and custom colors. Community features. Shared edits. All voxel edits sync with the community automatically. You edit a tile locally. Edit uploads to community server. Other players see your edit in real time. New players download all community edits. Contributor tracking. Anonymous but consistent IDs. Per tile contributor lists. Press L to view leaderboard. Controls.
Key action. C. Toggle community sync. S.
Force sync.
N.
Show leaderboard. VR mode. Requirements. WebXR browser, Chrome, Edge, Firefox. VR headset, Quest, Vive, Index, etc. HTTPS connection. Setup. Click Enter VR button. Put on headset. Use controllers to play and edit. VR editing. Enable edit mode. Thumbstick click. Point at voxels. Trigger to add, grip to remove. GBA support. Virtuboy supports Game Boy Advance with a unique rendering style. Pop-up storybook rendering. GBA has multiple background layers. Virtuboy renders each layer as a separate 3D plane. Sprites, front, BG0, BG1, BG2, BG3, back. Each layer sits at a different Z-depth, creating a pop-up book effect. Features. ARM 7 TDMI CPU with ARM and thumb instruction sets. All 4 background layers rendered separately. Sprite layer extracted from OEM. Audio with PSG plus direct sound channels. First-person mode works with GBA games too. Import, export. Magic of Voxel, Vox. Export. Single tile, metatile, or full scene. Import. Replace tiles or create new custom tiles. Automatic coordinate mapping. Wavefront OBJ. Export for Blender, Maya, etc. Import with textures and materials. UV coordinates sampled for voxelization. FBX. Import from professional 3D software. Supports embedded textures. Voxelized or mesh rendering. Technical details. Architecture. VirtuBoy Emulator Voxel Render Persistence Core System GB/GBC. Tile Volume Scene. JS-DB. JS CPU. JS VRAM Voxel Voxel Mesh Voxel. Stored JS Pew. JS Editor. JS Wexer. JS Community Sync APU. JS Metatile Layer Render GBA. GBA Pop-Up ARM7. JS Pew. JS APU JS. Performance. Instance meshes for voxels, single draw call. Tile hashing, identical tiles share volumes. Mobile optimization, 32 layers versus thousands of cubes. Frame buffer caching, voxels persist when LCD disabled. Local development. Git clone https://github.com/MiLO83/VirtuBoy. Git cd VirtuBoy npm install, npm run dev. GBX cart RW setup. Hardware required. GBX cart RW version 1.4 USB adapter. Physical GB, GBC, or GBA cartridge. Browser requirements. Chrome, Edge, or Opera, Web USB support. HTTPS connection or localhost. Connection steps. Connect GBX cart via USB. Insert cartridge into the reader. Click Connect GBX cart in VirtuBoy. Grant permission in the browser dialog. Click Read cartridge to load. Features. Auto detection of cartridge insertion/removal. ROM header parsing, title, type, size. No disk storage. ROM stays in RAM only. Memory cleared on tab close. Keyboard shortcuts reference. General.
Key action. V.
Toggle to D/voxel mode.
E.
Toggle edit mode.
F.
Toggle first person mode. Control+C. Undo. Voxel operations.
Key action. I.
Import vox voxelized.
M.
Import mesh non-voxelized.
O.
Export to DVox. Control+Shift+E. Export scene to DVox. Control+Shift+O. Export scene to .obj. Control+Shift+I. Import obj with textures. Metatiles.
Key action.
Shift+click. Multi-select tiles.
G. Group into metatile.
Escape. Clear selection. Map editor.
Key action. M.
Toggle map editor.
C.
Copy tile to brush.
X.
Clear brush. Community.
Key action. C.
Toggle sync outside map editor.
S.
Force sync.
N.
Leaderboard.
Credits.
Emulator cores inspired by open source GB/GBA emulators. Virtual Boy palette from Nintendo's Virtual Boy console. 3.js for 3D rendering. Magic of Voxel for Vox format specification. GBX cart RW by Inside Gadgets. Built with Claude code.